Welcome to the Bold Analysis, ladies and gentlemen. And today I want to take you to a deep scheme. Why the UDA wing has hijacked a special sitting that was called by the leader of majority in the National Assembly to institute what you can see as part of a transition strategy. Recently, on 7th July, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Junet Muturi, called a special request to debate 3 bills in the National Assembly. And the special sitting was to be convened after the leader of majority, Amos Kimunya, asked the Speaker to call that sitting. A special sitting can be called by the leader of majority or the majority leader or the leader of minority group in the national. A special sitting that has been called from executive. But Junet Mohammed is coming up with a new twist to that special sitting. We are going to look at that, but I think it will also be important for you to understand what exactly was called for that meeting, because that meeting is supposed to be tomorrow, the 13th of July. That is tomorrow on Wednesday. Ladies and gentlemen, the special sitting was called first for the approval of a motion by the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations of the ratification of Defense Cooperation deal between Kenya, United Kingdom, and Northern Ireland. If you look at that, the nature of that bill is the nature of that motion is more of one that has come from executive, because it touches to the national security, and of course that is directly from the executive. The second business of the House of the special sitting that will happen from 10 a.m. in the morning, and then another afternoon sessions at 2:30 p.m. is County Government's Additional Allocations Bill 2020. This bill is one that will allow for access of grants to the county government, and of course it's a bill that was passed after, it's a bill that came from the IBEC, which is the committee that Deputy President chairs. Then there is the contentious Huduma Bill 2021. So the Huduma Bill has been here, and if you look at these three, I see the one for the KDF, for the Defense Cooperation Deal, being perhaps an urgent one, because special sitting is called to discuss matters that are perhaps urgent. The Huduma Bill has been very contentious for some time, and I remember it was during the second reading in February where people really exchanged bitter words, because the bill was criticized by the Immigration Department. It was actually proposing centralization of the data in one card known as the Huduma number card, or what they called the National Integrated Identification Management System, the NIMS. So all the data of the Kenyans from birth, there was one that is to be given at birth, then after 18 you're going to be given another one, but this strategy was seen as one way of the government to have custody of the data of Kenyans. So it's more of amalgamation of all the data from different departments, and immigration came out to say that it was leading to abolition, or rather it will remove the role of the immigration department, and of course some people are going to lose jobs. I was reading through, and it's one of the bills that if it passes, it allows the IBC, or rather it directs the IBC to use the Huduma, the database at the Huduma number as the primary register in this election. And this is why I'm saying that this bill is not going to be applied in this election, because the IBC have already configured their data and reset in the KIMS kits, and so the data had also been audited by KMPG. That is my position. So looking at all that, you can see that it has been treated as a matter of urgency. But I don't see this bill being applied in this election. IBC at past time, and I remember when there was a judgment from the courts for them to include the presidential candidates, they said that that order was progressive and it would be applied in the next general election. For this one, the IBC had pronounced themselves that they are going to work with that register. Now, that brings me to the twist by Junet Mohammed. And Junet Mohammed has made a statement that the UDA wing have hatched that special sitting, and it seems Speaker Muturi is already working secretly with William Ruto for the team to sneak in approval of the county of the National Assembly clerk, or rather approval of the clerk to the National Assembly. This is a very critical position as far as parliament operations are concerned. The clerk to the National Assembly is the principal advisor to the speaker. This is the person that conducts appointment, or rather election, of the new speaker of the house. He will call the 13th meeting. He called it the 13th house. He is the person that will administer the oaths to the new members of parliament, plan for everything and welfare of members of parliament. This is a very special personnel as far as parliament activities and transition is concerned. So Junet is saying that apparently that meeting has been called for them to fill that position. Now, let me just get to an interesting bit of this. Now, the guy you're seeing in your screen is known as Michael CLI. Michael CLI is from Kericho. He's the person that has been serving as the clerk since 2017. He took over from the 5th clerk of the National Assembly, someone known as Justin Bundi. He passed on. So Michael CLI was supposed to retire last year in May. But because of the BBI constitutional amendment, the 2020 constitutional amendment bill, that was the BBI, they did not want disruption, and his tenure was extended for another 1 year. So it was extended, and now it was supposed to end in July, and it's going to end in July a month after the National Assembly goes to recess. So this position is appointed by Joint Parliamentary Service. Joint Parliamentary Service is the body that brings together that one of the Senate, the members from the Senate, representatives of that Parliamentary Service Commission from the Senate and the National Assembly. So that position is appointed by that Joint Parliamentary Service and is approved by the National Assembly. So what they realized is that they were going to this election without that person because he's going to retire in July, and it seems time was running out. Now, the chairperson of the Parliamentary Service Commission is Justin Muturi. I want to explain for you guys why the clerk to the National Assembly plays a critical role in this, and why Junet Mohammed might be raising eyebrows on the rush by the UDA wing to make sure that that position is filled. Remember, they had complained about secretary to the cabinet, and president came out with the transition team even without the hold of that office. So what is happening? Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our video. We try to keep it factual, scientific, researched, and also legal. Let's get to the real deal. This latest strategy by Justin Muturi, working closely with the UDA cohort, according to Junet Mohammed, in my understanding, I have gone through the roles of the clerk and the kind of role that he will play in the National Assembly, and why this is a worry to Deputy President. Now, what is happening here? The rush to convene to get the hold of this position is, I think, the Deputy President's team are just trying to have an element of immediate continuity immediately after the elections. Because what will happen is after the election, maybe someone will lose and someone will be going to court. The moment someone is going to court, there is a dispute going on, but they would be psychologically, the winning side would want an element of continuity. Now, what William Ruto team are trying to look at here is a situation where if Ruto wins the election and Raila Odinga decides to head to court to dispute it, he would want to have a clerk to the National Assembly that is dancing to his tune. Because now, if he's appointed now, the person that is going to appoint that clerk to the National Assembly is the current Speaker, Justin Muturi. So because Justin Muturi is on his side, they can pick someone who can be their proxy. Immediate elections are done. Then the following week, they call the parliament, they take oaths, they appoint the speaker, and everything moves on. Because Ruto is seeing a majority, that he is most likely going to get a majority in the National Assembly and the Senate. So if he gets a clerk, these things will be done so faster that psychologically, Kenyans will have an element of continuity. So that transition goes on in the National Assembly. This, in my understanding, is one of the critical roles why this position is looking at. If you remember 2017, when Raila was going to court, President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee team were already, things were moving on in Parliament. Now, the clerk of the National Assembly will be included in the transition team. I think this move is just to counter, or rather it's coming in the backdrop of President Uhuru Kenyatta's dream team. If you look at Uhuru Kenyatta's dream team, there are representatives from the judiciary, and Ahmad is there. There are representatives from the National Intelligence, the Office of the President, or rather the Executive, where cabinet ministers are included there. One from the police department, where the National Police Service, but there is no representative from the National Assembly. I want you to challenge me. Go and look at that list. You will realize that none of the speakers is there, and I don't know whether they are members of that team. But if there was someone to be included from the National Assembly, let's just look at it. Fred Matiang'i, Cabinet; Kibisho, Interior, PS; Hilary Ntiambai, Police; Robert Kabochi, Defense; National Intelligence, Philip Kameru; Anne Hamadi, Judiciary; Kinuthia Mbugua, State House; AG Kihara, Attorney General's Office; Jerome Ochieng, hiyo ni PS; PS Muhia, PS Kamau Macharia, that is from Transport; PS Julius Korir, PS Joyo Kudo, Solicitor General Ken Ogeto. If you look at that list, there is no one from the National Assembly. But the two arms of government, the judiciary and the executive, is represented. So the Ruto team are trying to fill that vacant position so that they might go to rally and then ask the president to include someone from the legislature. Now, I also see something here, and I don't know whether you're the only one. I'm the only one who has realized that there is no conversation about a budget for a rerun. So what I have seen, and if you look at the tender that IBC awarded to the Greece farm, they are providing the services for this election and a referendum, but government do not have any budget for a rerun. Now, Deputy President's team might be seeing a possibility of forcing a rerun. But forcing a rerun, because there is no still budget that is there might be need for Parliament to pass extra budget to go to the IBC, or rather supplementary budget for IBC to receive capitation for a rerun. But that rerun would most probably be affected or sabotaged if the National Assembly is not in operation. So this is one thing I can see, that they want an element that Parliament, if the judiciary, if the judiciary and the National Assembly and the executive are holding together, because Ruto team are seeing a possibility of, if Raila is going to win president, then Raila, who is going to head the executive, might be so close to the judiciary, looking at how recently President Uhuru Kenyatta has interacted with Martha Koome. So he will see that if Parliament continues well, a budget for rerun can easily be passed. Muturi will just influence to put a proxy to serve the interests. Let me explain. After 2017, you will realize that NASA members of parliaments were boycotting House committees, and I know people that did not know. The handshake was so critical because the MPs that were allied to Raila Odinga were not even participating in House business committees, and that was affecting the operations of the legislature. So if they put, and it took the personal intervention of Michael Sialai to reconcile and talk to the NASA candidates with the political party's leadership so that the House Business Committee would continue. Now, if Ruto will put a proxy, this is one of the persons that can be used to make sure that the National Assembly is in the hands of Deputy President. This is quite critical position because if you look at it, you'll realize that Ruto might have might miss the executive and judiciary, but he might have a capture in the National Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my bold analysis.